Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sport for Life's first podcast. This is a podcast where we're going to just explore young people in the space and what real life experiences young people actually go through in today's society. So, hi, everyone, my name's Zoe, and I'm the Education and Skills Team Leader, and I also help to run the Youth Voice. And I've got two amazing people from the Youth Voice today who are going to share their experiences and the misconceptions about work and education. And you may also know me from the Future Focus newsletter, which is a newsletter where we share all the great information about what's coming up. That's enough of me. I'd love to introduce our two guests today. So I have Kit and I have Mia.
Hiya, I'm Mia, I'm 18 and I'm currently a sports coach at Sports for Life.
Oh, we love that, short and sweet.
Very concise.
And I'd now like to introduce everyone to Kit.
Hi, I'm Kit. My pronouns are they, he. I am the chair of the Youth Voice. I do a little bit of everything here and there. Professional yapper.
Love that.
We can add that. Thank you for joining us. How are we doing today?
Thank you for having us. I'm good, how are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. I'd love it if it was sunny, but we'll roll with it.
Same.
Now we love a bit of rain. I'm doing all right. I'm enjoying the fact that the rain I know is there in the background somewhere while we're sat safe inside. So I've kind of enjoyed a bit of the rain today.
There we go. We do love the sound of rain, right? When it just trickles.
It's so relaxing.
Exactly.
It's so nice. I don't appreciate for the frizz of the hair though. The hair needs to stay.
I feel that.
Intact.
As a curly girl, the rain doesn't do us no justice. But today, I really want to get into your experiences, your journeys as young people when it comes to the misconceptions about work and education, because we know there's so much misconception, and this is the best place to actually dive into that. So I'm just going to get straight into it. So when you look back, what actually surprised you with starting your career?
I got into work when I was 16, so I started quite young. I started volunteering a lot, and I think it was more so I started work as I was going into sixth form. So of how much time it takes up and how much stress it builds up, but also it's also a bit of release, and it's something to be proud of doing. Like being in work so young and you don't realise how much you love having your own money. It is so nice. I don't have to ask my mum for money anymore. Like it's one of them that I thought it was going to be nice, easy. It is not. It is so stressful.
It's rough. You deal with a lot, like especially depending on what sort of work you're doing. Like I think looking back, thinking about work and kind of careers and everything, I think I'm just surprised by kind of how little you can know going into it, like how little you're prepared for it, especially if you start young like yourself. And I started volunteer work as well at 16, and I feel like you're not necessarily like voluntarily prepared with like, okay, what are your rights, like what should you come to expect, what should you put up with and not put up with, what should your boundaries be. It's kind of like you're thrust into that world.
I think there's a massive barrier between volunteering and working.
Oh.
But the expectations, the roles, a volunteer, it's more the simple jobs, the stuff that you can do easy, you don't need to learn. But when you go into work, it's like you're put in a field and a box where like that's your job with no help how to do it. Schools don't prepare you for work. They tell you how to get a job, but they don't teach you how to write CVs, how to apply for jobs successfully. They sort of just expect you, well, you've had your maths, your English, your science, you passed your exams.
Good to go.
Yeah.
You're free to go.
Yeah.
So much to digest already. Wow, where do we even begin? I think, like you said, Kit, the fact that we don't explore our rights, we don't actually know. So just like you, Mia, I started working at 16. We won't go into detail, but it was so chaotic because I knew nothing. I just wanted to be paid. I just wanted to spend some money on some trainers, which I did, which I don't regret, but we could have put some aside to save in. But they don't really take the time to explain what's your rights, the different types of contracts, like you said. Do you know the difference between a 0-hour contract, fixed contract, part-time, and what it actually looks like?
Yeah.
And it's interesting, May, you touched on school and how you don't feel like they really prepared you. Do you want to go into some more detail?
So we had endless talks and people coming about careers and trying to guide us to our careers, but it's good to give us that information about careers. Go ahead, like it's amazing they're doing that. However, there was never really the guidance of how to apply for a job successfully, how to write a CV, how to read a job description, how to find a job that best suits you. People just see a job and will see a part-time job, but they don't look where it is, the hours, the contract. They won't see what's expected of them. Like, for example, when I was applying for jobs, I knew I wanted to go into sport, but it was hard to find a job into sport. So I was applying for any job possible, like Primark, like anything retail. And I didn't read the job description properly, and I didn't read the contract and what's expected of me, that pay and what I was going to be expected to do at my age. Schools, they'll give you the resources to what career and going post 16 and going into look at like what you're going to do after your fixed term high school. But there's never really much education on how to get there. They expect us to just go and get into work, and it's not that easy.
Yeah, it's not a straight line, is it?
It's so hard to get into work, and I found that especially when I finished my GCSEs, and it feels like ages ago now. When I finished,
we won't comment on that.
When I finished my GCSEs and trying to find a little job just to get into before I got into sixth form, it was so hard, and honestly, it was so strange, like getting rejected because I didn't know how to fill out an application form properly, and I didn't know how to edit my CV. Like, trying to write my CV was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do. It was so hard. And the amount of templates you have to, honestly, it's so stressful.
I would say, fun fact, for anyone listening, please update your CVs. It's a nightmare of a job, but every 3 months, just have a look. Did I do that qualification? I did. Just jot it down. It makes such a difference. Kit, what was your experience like?
I think, honestly, like, it was something that I was thinking about as you was talking, is that we're taught that it's quite like you say, it's not linear. We're taught it's quite a linear process, that you're in education, you're in secondary school until you're 16, you go straight on to college, you go straight on to uni, you take your pathways, and that's the way it's done, and that's the mainstream way of doing it. But actually, for me, and I know for a lot of people, it was much a different experience with education, and qualifications, and, you know, figuring out the whole career journey. For me, like, I was kind of a school refusal by like 14, 15, which, can I say, ridiculous to call it school refusal, because it completely takes away from like the intricacies of why kids go through these experiences. But yeah, kind of struggled to get a few GCSEs, undiagnosed kind of learning difficulties, ADHD, being autistic, very little support. For me, I kind of came away from that, and I tried to go for college, absolutely bombed because there was a lot going on, and then came back to it and tried again. And I think it was several tries of college before I managed to get a qualification that would take me to the next level for what I wanted to do at the time. But it really, looking back, it showed me kind of how many different pathways there actually are that we're not taught about, and the support that we're not aware could be there. There's so many different ways of going about that journey, and I wish I'd had a better idea back then, really.
And that's what's so important. I think we're going to come back to it a lot, but it's not linear. There's so many different paths that we can go as young people, and like you said, I just don't think the knowledge is given to us. But equally, like you said, there's journeys to things. We're not all going to succeed in all of our GCSEs and then go get the job. It really doesn't happen that way.
I completely agree with what Kit said. Similar to me, I was out of school year 10, so prime, starting my GCSE. I didn't return back till the end of year 10, starting year 11. And at that point, especially when I had to go in and start picking my A-levels, I changed my A-levels the night before I picked them. Not even the night, like probably 2 hours before I had to pick them. And it was the best thing I ever did. It was the best intrusive thought I probably ever had, apart from cutting my hair. But honestly, I think the thing I've had to learn growing up and sort of starting to mature now and turning into a young adult is that you've got to sort of go with your gut as well, especially with what you want to do in your career. I've gone from wanting to be a hairdresser to a midwife to a paramedic to now going into sport, which is something I knew I always wanted to do, sport, but it took me how many jobs and how many courses and how many A-level options to decide that, well, I don't want to do that. I'm doing it because I've got the idea that people have told me I'm smart. And when I popped that bubble, and when I sort of got out of that idea and got out of that box, I was like, I'm doing something I don't enjoy here.
Which is so key. Again, you mentioned great points. Like, The one thing I'd say, definitely, you want to do something you enjoy, because it's very difficult to give your time and energy to something you don't enjoy. And I can tell you that from experience. I did a job and I hated every minute of it. I cried for 3 months straight. And I remember my mum saying, girl, this is not for you. And I'm like, I know. So I quit and I felt so good. But you also mentioned the opportunities. And I do think it's something we'll talk about that misconception that, unfortunately, there's not always the same amount of opportunities for our young people now than what there was when I was growing up. Like, I did multiple jobs to kind of figure out what I enjoyed. But unfortunately, I don't think that same opportunity is there for our young generation. Do you think that's the same? Like, have you experienced it or know something like that?
I completely agree. I work with kids day in, day out. I've worked in pretty much majority of S4L, where we could probably agree S4L's a very deprived area in terms of opportunities, resources, and with what's provided for like young people in our area. And also someone growing up in S4L, like, I've experienced the deprivation, but you've also witnessed it firsthand from stepping back. I think the amount of opportunities that are out there at the moment, there's not a lot. There's not a lot for people, and especially young people, to go and do what they want to do, especially leadership opportunities, like qualifications. A lot of qualifications now cost a lot.
Yep.
And
we know that.
Young people can't afford them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more so as well that if you've got young people who have always been complained about being a problem or disturbance, but they're only going to that because they've got nothing else to channel their time into.
Yeah, which is very true.
If young people haven't got anything to channel their time into, they're going to go and cause trouble. They're going to go and be a problem on the, not even problem in air quotations,
yes,
big air quotations. But that's, if there was more opportunities, then that would solve an issue. And I stand by that. I've done so much work and research on it, is that young people want to get involved.
Yep.
They want to do stuff. The passion is there. If you gave a young person an opportunity, they'll
take it.
They'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they're causing, once again, air quotations, trouble is because they've got nothing to do.
So let's break that misconception right now. Young people are passionate. Young people want opportunities. We need to start providing those opportunities.
Yeah, pretty much.
What about yourself, Kit? Was there anything growing up that you wanted that you don't feel like you had access to?
I think it kind of builds off of what Mia's saying in terms of like seeing kids as like problems, especially when there's such a lack of resources and funding and whatnot. But like, I think looking back, I wish I'd had somebody that wanted to work with me the way that you do with young people, the way you do with young people, to see the value that I had intrinsically and to make it clear that that was there. Like, I had some teachers that would try extra hard with me despite not having kind of like education plan or any of the diagnoses in place. But overall, I felt really downtrodden by the adults in authority around me who were meant to be supportive and they were meant to help me go through my education. I think looking back, I definitely think I think it's a wider problem with the educational system that I won't go fully down that rabbit hole right now, but like, I think it's this issue of missing out on the humanity of the kids that are in front of you.
Yeah.
And I think if I had more people around me, whether it be school or like, you know, organisations like Sport for Life, if I had more of that in my life, I might have been less likely to kind of like go off the rails the way I did as a teenager. Kind of, yeah, I think it would have made a huge difference to my life to have that kind of support and even be aware that that could be there in the first place.
It's that intersectional lens that we speak so much about. Like, you have the person, but there's so much more to the person than their gender, their age, their race. There's so much more. And I think misconceptions in the workplace and education for young people are crazy at the minute.
Completely
like,
agree.
I'm curious whether you worked or volunteered. What was one of the biggest misconceptions you had going into it?
So going into work, and I've got two, to be fair. I've got one going into work and one that I've sort of seen as well from working. So going into work, one of the biggest misconceptions is probably the amount of time it takes. Like, the amount of time it takes off me, how tired, and the amount of time I've not got for myself.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely, I work, I go to school, and I sleep.
Rinse and repeat, right?
And I eat, work, sleep, and that is my weekly routine. I think, but one of the biggest misconceptions sort of I've seen is, I spoke at the Labour conference a couple of months ago now, around September, October time, and I was asked a question. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the question, but I was asked a question more so to do with young people and, well, young people are causing problems, but why are you saying all this? Well, the reason we was there was to create awareness, and linking onto what Kit said, having a trusted adult and having someone you can go and talk to. Like, I've got people, I didn't really have many people at sixth form I could have got, before sixth form, sorry, that I could go and talk to. As I got into sixth form, I learned to open up and I learned to trust. But that's because I had people who gave me a reason to open up and trust. I think if you can be that support for a young person, like Kit said as well, that it solves a lot of issues. They've then got someone to go to, and then that awareness isn't them bought. Like, it's there, and something can be done. I think it doesn't need anything big. It just needs someone to talk, and it just needs someone to open their eyes, and for one person to take that step to create that awareness. When that one step's taken, the others follow. It takes time. It takes a lot of time, but the steps gradually follow.
The doors open once you've
opened the door. It can't be shut. You have to go through it. It only opens one way, and then you can only go through it.
I love that. Only opens one way.
Sorry, that's goosebumps.
What about yourself?
I think the first one that comes to mind is that, like, it is an uneven power dynamic as you go in regardless. But my misconception, especially working from a young age, was that, like, they're right and I'm wrong, and that they set the rules and I follow, and they pay me to do the job, so I turn up and I do whatever they want me to do. I had no idea that you could be kind of exploited, or kind of, even just in simple terms of, you know, working in hospitality as a teenager, they would pile so much work on top of me that no one wanted to do. And I was there to work. I'm a hard worker, I'm driven, so I did it. But looking back now, I can see somebody who was given all of the slack and just it piled up. And I had no idea that, you know, I had those rights, like we've talked about, that I could kind of, I guess, like, bring conflict or kind of issues or complaints. I didn't know who to go to about any of that sort of stuff. And I think alongside that as well, like, another one for me would definitely be, if I'm thinking like career-wise, more long-term, the fact that you have to know what you want at all times.
Oh, yeah.
That you have to have this clear set path. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody knows what they want. Everybody knows their paths. But, like, for a lot of people, that's not the case. We just don't see it on the outside. And also the fact that, like, part of the journey is figuring it out.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that until I went to university, that, like, I was going in and sometimes we'd have seminars and, you know, the lecturer would ask a question. There'd be people really engaged, like, oh, my favourite thing is this and this is what I want to do. And I'd be sat there in silence, like, oh, I just know that I care about the environment. Like, am I, you know, am I in the right place?
It's
like,
so broad, isn't it?
Yeah.
People don't, and I think I'm so glad we're talking about it, but people don't actually explore the options. They don't explore how you get from A to B and how you can face rejection. Rejection is totally fine. It will lead to success. Like, don't be bummed out completely with rejection. It doesn't feel nice, but actually it will make you stronger. Like you says, you may like sports, you may like environmental, but that's massive. It's so broad. There's probably a job that you ain't never heard of. But then equally, we change career paths so often. Like, you don't have to stick to one thing and one thing alone. Like, I know one of my biggest misconceptions, I should say, especially when I first started working, was, yes, my rights, but specifically when it came to breaks. Why did I think I would have like a good hour break? No, I had like a 30-minute break, and I was like, that is not enough time, especially because I worked in retail. And it goes back to knowing your rights, because I was kept behind in the later shifts when actually I shouldn't, but I just thought, oh, I'm helping out with everyone else. But actually, that's not the case, and I didn't know that. And when I really reflect, that wasn't a safe situation. I'd leave late, I'd go through town to get home. So I just really wish that we did speak about what those misconceptions are and what your rights are, because that's not a healthy environment to not even know these things. Like, there's loads of things, especially when you mentioned that power dynamic and the boundaries. There's nothing wrong with setting boundaries at a workplace. Like, you can be friendly with your colleagues, but equally you can set boundaries. You don't have to disclose everything. But equally, if you have a problem, again, it's finding that trusted person and speaking up about it. I feel like you said, a lot of us, when we go into that big person job, let's say, you just think, okay, I can't put a foot wrong, I'm there to work. Well, actually, no, that's the best time to make mistakes, but also find out how the system works.
I think I completely agree. And a point that Kit said as well, it's okay to say no. That is the biggest thing. When I first started work, I was young, I was new to this field. I've always played sport, I've always been involved, but I've volunteered, but I've never really had to coach on my own. I've never been given that independence of, there's your kit bag, there's your footballs, there's your bibs, there's your whistle, there you go.
We love that. Say it again for
You're
us. Say it loud and
allowed
clear.
to say no.
Thank you, everyone. You are allowed to say no. And it's bringing us nicely, actually, to the next little bit, which is, what advice would you give to people that are listening? Like, looking back at your own experiences, what advice would you give, and what do you wish you would have known? I know, loaded question. We love when we get a ooh.
I think the biggest advice I've got to say is, say no. Don't take too much stress on yourself.
Yep.
I'm still quite young. I've only just turned 18. I've had so many opportunities, which I'm so grateful for. But it got to the point where I was so stressed, to the point I was literally just hibernating in my bed and rotting in bed, which sometimes you need. We did
love a little rot.
Love a good bed rot. But I was going from sixth form to work, then back from work to do my revision, and to go back onto meetings, and I took too much on. And I think I learned to say no. I learned what I was capable of doing, and I learned, well, I don't necessarily need to do that. Let someone else do it. And I started to drop a lot of stuff. People were asking me because they knew I'd say yes. And when I started saying no, they would still ask me, but I'd be like, oh, can I? Yeah, let me not do that. That's not me. Yeah. But also, if you are given an opportunity, don't say no. If you think it's worthwhile taking the opportunity, take it. Don't feel bad because you've got a friend or someone else who wants to do it. I got it all the time as, you're doing this, and this, well, I've been offered that opportunity. Sometimes it's good to be selfish. If it's going to benefit you in your career path, don't be scared to grasp it, because you might never get that opportunity again.
I wish I could just do another podcast just about emotions and mental health. And yes, you can take the opportunity equally. It is totally fine to say no.
It is okay to be stressed. It's okay to be overwhelmed, and it's okay to ask for help. We're still learning. Everyone's still learning. You never stop learning.
Trust me, you never stop learning.
You never stop. The amount of times I've messed up, it's uncountable, but I've learned from them and I've not made that mistake again. And even if you do make that mistake again, ask. It happens.
We are all human.
Life is life. Life isn't plain sailing. It's not, once again, it's not linear. Yes. You're going to make mistakes.
Like we say, sometimes life just be lifing, and you just got to go with the flow. Make those mistakes. We're at such a good age to make those mistakes, and it feels really crappy. But like he says, you then know how you can change it. And again, if you make it again,
it's what
it is. Like, it's not that deep. Feel free to make those mistakes and ask for help.
I think bit of a true story. When I look back now, I giggle because it's funny. I think I cried the once because I left my kit bag at goals and I needed it for Hadley Stadium. And I was like, oh my God, I'm done. And I remember messaging my line manager at the time. I was like, yeah, it's not that deep now. Like, we had footballs in the car.
It's perspective though, isn't it? Because I used to do the same.
I think it was the first time, and when I was late once for a session, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. I'm still here. I'm still. We've still got the football boots on Monday. Like, we're still going.
Still happens.
It's not the end of the world. And I think that's the biggest thing going into work, is that as a young person, you are sort of seen there as, they'll do it. They'll do it. Because you don't, once again, going back to that awareness, you don't know your rights. You don't know what you're expected to do and don't do in your role. There are some things you can't say no to. Like, I'm not saying say no to if you don't like the sound of it, but
just for clarification,
if there is something you feel like, oh, I don't think I should be doing that, bring it up. Like, ask questions. The only way you're going to learn is if you ask questions.
You don't know unless you ask, right? And I'm gonna flip the script to you, Kit. What's one thing, or multiple things if you've got it, you wish you knew, and what advice would you give to the people listening?
I think that's a tough one because I got so many thoughts coming through, especially from what Mia's just said.
Part 2, maybe.
So yeah, just gonna yap away. I think like the thing about boundaries is huge. I think like learning how to, like, self-care, and I'm not just talking like, you know, bubble baths and a cup of tea. Those are valid, great forms of self-care, but I'm talking about learning how to prioritize your needs, like learning how to kind of build and strengthen your own voice, you know, to be able to voice when you're uncomfortable with things, or to even be able to recognize that you're not okay with it. I think it's harder to do, I think, when you're first coming out into the world of like work and everything, and you've just got a lot less experience. So it kind of again ties into what Mia's saying about making mistakes. It's part of the journey. It's how you learn. One of the things that Sensei at karate always says is, he says, if we can't get it quite right, he's like, it's all right. You wouldn't be here if you knew how to do it. And that always sits with me, you know, that actually most of the things that I've figured out in life along the way have been by realising something's not for me as much as realising it is for me. So I think being able to kind of hone those sorts of, it's that discernment and, like you say, the awareness. And I think also, like, yeah, talking to other people, because there's so many parts of adulthood that, whether it's been about education or, you know, qualifications, work, building my home, like all areas of being a whole human being or trying to be, is like we get in our little bubbles and we think like, oh yeah, like I've got to have this all right, or like, oh, I can't get this wrong, or oh well, this other person has got this figured out, or, you know. And sometimes we need to, like you say, break that bubble and actually be able to have vulnerable conversations with each other to help us realise that all this stuff that you're figuring out along the way, whoever's listening or, you know, watching and listening, all this stuff you're trying to figure out along the way, everybody's been there in some capacity.
Yeah.
Like, we may all be kind of in slightly different boats at times, but we've all had to go through similar enough decision-making processes that actually just talk to one another. And I think as well, knowing how much support is out there, especially kind of more so these days, and my awareness of it. Also, there's some lacking because of, you know, funding and all this other stuff that I won't get into right now. That's a you know, another.
That's podcast episode 3.
Yeah.
3, 4.
You know, but that there are, like Sport for Life, brilliant organisations out there that are there to help guide you through your journey. I say access every avenue of support that you can find as a young person. Anything that you're struggling with, there's nothing wrong with asking for help. We've all had it along the way, no matter how strong we are. It takes strength to ask for that help and to get that support. So if you can find it, use it, basically. That's what I'd say.
Conversation is the biggest tool out there.
Love conversation.
A conversation is the one thing that it's so powerful and people underestimate it. Showing someone how vulnerable you are, or that you're overwhelmed and you need support, it's the best, it's the biggest tool, it's the best thing that you can do for yourself, but to also for other people.
It's true.
People are going to mirror your actions. If you open up, that could promote someone else to open up. And we start unraveling this big issue of that awareness, and it starts slowly making sense. Everyone's journey is different, but like it said, no one's that different when we're not in the same boat. You'll always have a few people in your boat that are going through not the exact same thing, because no one is parallel, but something very similar, and you can sort of not cling on, but use them for a support unit as well. And I think that, like what you were saying, talk, just, it's so simple. And I know at some points it's the hardest thing to do. I've been there myself. Being able to get up and have a conversation, it can be the hardest thing, but it is that first step to being not just successful, but sort of helping yourself and helping other people at the same time.
And I'm going to close with that. I'm going to close with conversation that I agree. I think when you get to that point where you feel comfortable to speak, it opens doors. You can access support. And your voice is very powerful. As young people, point blank period, our voices are powerful. Our lived experiences are powerful. And that's why I really want to thank you for sitting down, yapping with me today. And I really hope that anyone listening takes something from this, but also maybe helps them to reflect. And if you're ever struggling and you want some support, we're here. Just like there's other organizations, there's other support networks. But if anything, like you said, I'd ask people, speak to someone, whether it's your friend, whether it's a trusted colleague, trusted person at school. I think we need to harness that a bit more because it will help us. So once again, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for listening.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.